The story began in the Chinese city of Tianjin when a glowing child was born. This was the first appearance of the strange abilities that later became known as quirks. After that, many people with these abilities were born, and the world became filled with superpowers, with 80% of the world's population having some sort of quirk. A new profession emerged: heroes. There was a licensed group of heroes used by the government to select individuals with strong and unique abilities to serve the community. However, in this era, there's a different kind of hero. This time, heroes are not chosen by anyone but act on their own, and each has their own definition of justice. This raises doubts about whether these people can even be called heroes in the first place. These are the guardians who aim to become true heroes, and this was the time when Midoriya entered high school. Next, we moved to a city where a giant monster was wreaking havoc. Some people were running away while others were watching. Then All Might appeared and reassured everyone, defeating the monster with a powerful blow, earning the crowd's admiration and carrying the monster away. A college student was watching and was amazed by All Might's strength. He realized he was late for class and hurriedly tried to leave, but bumped into someone who seemed to be a bully. The bully demanded an apology for what the student had done, and the student indeed apologized, which made others taunt him, asking where his pride was. The bully tried to hit the boy, but he used his quirk to evade just in time and then started to run, prompting them to chase him. This boy's quirk was sliding, which needed 3 points of his body to touch the ground for it to activate. We find out that his name is Koichi, and he is a college student. Some people praised his quirk, even those who had bullied him, but he continued on his way. Next, we see a girl singing in the city with an audience cheering her on. This girl, an independent artist named Pop Step, continued her performance as Koichi went to watch her with the crowd. The audience was cheering her on fiercely. Koichi thought to himself that he hoped the police wouldn't notice this gathering, while also thinking that Pop Step's singing was quite ordinary, not too special. However, it was her jumping and performance that made her shine like a brilliant pearl. Then he remembered he was late for work and hurried there. On his way, he was reflecting on how people care about appearances and are easily impressed by what they see. While walking, he slipped and thought life wasn't fair. Upon arriving at work, his manager told him he was late and that part of his salary would be docked. Koichi was standing in the store when the same bullies from before entered, looking for trouble. This time they brutally beat him up, and one of the bullies claimed his quirk was Spike, which caused severe pain. He said this while he and his friends mercilessly attacked Koichi. After it was over, Koichi headed home, showing signs of the beating he took and expressing frustration that the police should have done something. He was very angry, declaring that he had had enough and tonight he would do something about it, hinting at a plan. Later, Koichi put on a disguise and said he would unleash his quirk. He began to help people in different ways, even organized trash disposal. Some people recognized him and encouraged him, asking him to take their trash after he finished. Koichi felt happy with their words. After he finished, he was walking along and mentioned he was very thirsty when someone handed him water. To his shock, it was Pop Step, the singer. He asked her what she was doing there, and she told him he was the one who goes around the city cleaning up trash and helping people. She tried to remember his name, calling him the Cockroach Man, which was one of the names used to bully him, making him angry. He was about to leave when she commented on his ragged disguise, saying it was supposed to be All Might's. He replied that it was indeed All Might's because he wanted to be like him and would do everything he could to save the world, stating that it was not ragged but rather a cool costume. She sarcastically said that his best effort was collecting trash, to which he replied that everyone does what they can. She continued with, "Okay, Cockroach Man," and he snapped back with, "My name is Nice Guy." He walked away, telling her to be careful at parties so the police wouldn't catch her and thanking her for the drink. His tone displeased her, making her angry. By accident, she struck the bullies who had beaten Koichi, and they then began to bully her too, calling her the famous girl who sings on the streets. They tried to remove her mask, intending to post her face online. During this, Koichi watched what was happening without reacting, simply saying, "Stop what you're doing, guys." They told him not to interfere and to get lost with his stupid shirt. When he tried to speak again, their leader looked at him angrily, making him get nervous. He told them they were right and he should leave. As he walked away, he saw tears running down the girl's face and felt affected by it. He thought he had to do something. When he tried to confront the gang, one of them grabbed him and asked what he thought he was trying to do, "You idiot," before throwing him away. Their leader approached him and said he hadn't recognized him at first, but now he did. "No one asked you to in, cockroach trying to be a hero," he said before hitting him and injuring his face. He told him, "We won't stop at this. We will destroy you and your shop, and we'll also take out this girl." Then a strange person appeared on top of the building. Kochi heard the gang leader asking him why he was doing this. The response was, "Because you annoy me a lot." The girl was trying to escape and said she would call the police, but they didn't care and started bullying her. Kochi was devastated, and the gang member was about to take him out when the strange man jumped from the roof and landed on the ground, shocking everyone as it looked like they fell into the garbage. He said, "Were you talking about All Might? He won't show up, but I did." Then he stood up and said, "It looks like my landing was embarrassing, but don't worry, I just flexed my muscles a bit to withstand this impact." The gang leader tried to talk to him, but the man delivered a crushing blow that sent him flying. The rest of the gang was frightened and asked him who he was and why he was doing this. He replied, "I'll tell you, I'm called Cal Duster, and they call me the Garbage Avenger." Then he approached the rest of the gang and knocked them out too. After that, he pulled out one of the gang members' tongues and said, "The color hasn't changed. It looks like he's not one of them." When he saw the other person's tongue, he said, "You're not one of them either." It seemed he was looking for a certain gang. Then he called out to Kochi, who was terrified and kept saying he wasn't one of them. Cal Duster replied, "Boy, you have potential, and sometimes I need help. Join me, and I'll turn you into a hero." But Kochi, fearful, said, "I'm not interested in that kind of stuff," and tried to leave. The man said, "You're lying, because you're wearing a costume that looks like All Might's, and you're trying to help people. How can you say you don't want to be a hero?" Kochi admitted, "You're right, but I can't get a hero license with a lame quirk like mine." Cal Duster responded, "What are you talking about? Strong quirks and licenses have nothing to do with real justice." He continued, "What matters is when you face something dangerous and ask yourself if you're capable of facing it or not. That's the only question you need to answer." At that moment, Kochi realized this guy didn't have a hero license, but their conversation was cut short by a scream from Bob Stop, who the gang leader had taken hostage. He told Cal Duster to stop with the nonsense he was saying. Cal Duster replied, "Don't think that taking a hostage will stop me from taking you down." The gang leader then said, "I'm not taking her hostage. I'll use my quirk to disfigure her face. That's the only thing that will satisfy me." Kochi stood there in shock, thinking about Cal Duster's words when suddenly he charged at the gang leader and knocked him to the ground. Cal Duster seized the opportunity and delivered a powerful blow that knocked the gang leader away. After that, Cal Duster checked the gang leader's tongue as well and said, "It doesn't match the criteria, but I'll look into their identities just in case." He then approached Kochi and said, "I'll teach you everything about heroes. Nothing satisfies the soul like taking down villains." Kochi was shocked and didn't know what to say, but he thought to himself, "I don't know if I should thank you or run away from you, but what I do know is that you're much more dangerous than this gang." They then went to Kochi's house, and Cal Duster started reading Kochi's files, which angered him. He told him, "You shouldn't be snooping through my stuff." Cal Duster replied, "Don't worry about that. Right now, you just need to call me master." Kochi said, "I told you I won't become your disciple, and this is my home. You need to get out of here." But Cal Duster ignored him and started searching through his fridge, which also made Kochi angry. After that, we see the gang members walking after Cal Duster took them out. Their leader wanted revenge, but one of the gang members said, "We need to stay away from them because this guy is dangerous." Then someone with a scar on his face stopped them and said, "It seems you've been beaten badly, but I have just what you need." He had 3 tubes in his hand. After that, we see Cal Duster talking to Kochi, saying that he's looking for a new and dangerous drug spreading in the city called Trigger. This drug reduces mental strength, but boosts quirk power to the max. We see that the gang members used this drug, significantly increasing their strength. He said, "At this rate, villains will be everywhere, and I can't ignore it." Kochi replied, "But we shouldn't leave this to the police and heroes." Cal Duster told him that he couldn't rely on heroes and police in this matter because the villains appearing through the Trigger drug pop up suddenly among crowds, without any warning. So, the superheroes and the police will always be a step behind these criminals, and this is where we come in to deal with them and look at their tongues. Koichi asked, "Why their tongues?" Cal Duster replied, "Because drug addicts using trigger drugs end up with dark tongues as a side effect." Koichi then asked, "Is that why you were looking at the tongues of these criminals?" Cal Duster affirmed, "Yes, and anyone who has a dark tongue, I'll take care of right away. I'll also try to find out the source of this drug so I can eliminate the problem at its root." Koichi asked, "Are you going to hit anyone like that?" Cal Duster said, "Yes, you have to take care of them before they take a dose of trigger." Koichi responded, "I don't think anyone will just show you their tongue that easily." Cal Duster insisted, "Whoever we suspect, we'll deal with them right away." Koichi looked alarmed and said, "Are you joking?" The scene quickly shifted to Cal Duster and Koichi chasing some criminals. It seemed like he wasn't joking at all. During their adventure, they met Bob Step, who informed them that they were looking for drug addicts. Bob thanked Cal Duster for what he did yesterday, and then asked Koichi, "Why are you even helping this guy?" Koichi replied, "If I let him do what he wants, he might end up hitting anyone who passes by." Cal Duster angrily said, "I only hit suspects, just like I did with the gang." Bob Step said, "But that method is really random. You should use your brains and narrow down the search. Surely, many people have taken pictures of the villains. She was using her phone to look for some of them. At that point, Cal Duster stopped a man walking down the street and ordered him to stick out his tongue. Koichi tried to stop him from what he was doing, but accidentally, the man fell to the ground and some dolls fell out of his bag. Cal Duster said, "An adult wandering around with children's dolls? That's definitely suspicious." The man then claimed he was working in the toy trade, and Koichi tried to defend him, but it was no use. Cal Duster grabbed the man and was about to take him down when suddenly, Teacher Aizawa appeared and stopped Cal Duster, saying, "Violence is not allowed." Teacher Aizawa then asked Cal Duster, "Are you one of those villains?" Koichi and Bob Step were shocked to learn that Razorhead was an official hero and that Callister was instigating a fight with him. Koichi and Bob Step were afraid that Razorhead would think they were the bad guys, so they tried to say they had nothing to do with Callister. After that, a fierce battle began between Callister and Razorhead. Callister attacked Razorhead, landing a hit, but it didn't affect Razorhead. Razorhead then countered by hitting Callister, which knocked him back. Bob Step said, "I think something's wrong," and Koichi remarked that it was a big fight, but Callister didn't stop attacking and went for Razorhead again. Razorhead retaliated as well and struck Callister again, but it had no effect on him. Callister managed to grab Razorhead, but he broke free and flew high into the air. Still, Callister didn't give up and attacked Razorhead once more. Razorhead and Callister continued to fight, and eventually, a man came over. Bob Step remarked that this man seemed familiar from behind, and mentioned that when she was looking earlier, he appeared everywhere there were villains. She thought he might know something. Bob Step flew up to catch him and asked Koichi to chase him too. Koichi ran after him, shouting, "Come here so I can check you out." While they were chasing the man, the villains came back to them, and one of the villains said it was time to settle last night's score. Then we switched to the fight between Callister and Razorhead, where Callister asked Razorhead, "What's wrong? Are you feeling tired?" Razorhead replied, "I apologize to you. I was wrong, and there's nothing that makes me want to arrest you." He picked up his things from the ground and told Callister, "I think you are a villain." Callister responded that he hears that a lot. Razorhead said he was sorry again and started to leave. After that, Razorhead thought to himself, "I think he's strong because the erasing power didn't affect him, but that doesn't make him less suspicious, and I should report him to the police." Then we switched to Koichi, who was running away from the villains. The knife man chasing him said, "You won't be able to escape me this time," and jumped at him, but Koichi dodged his attack. When he started moving again, the fireman was waiting for him and said, "I'm over here," but Callister came from behind the fireman and landed a blow on him. After that, he threw a rock at the knife man and asked Koichi, "Where's the girl?" Koichi replied, "She's chasing the office worker." They headed toward her, but the knife man tried to follow them. However, Razorhead appeared and restrained him, telling him he was a villain too. Then we switched to Bob Step, who was chasing the office worker. When she got close to catching him, the evil dragon appeared and hit her, causing her to crash into the office worker, which made him drop his bag. The office worker felt a deep sadness for his figures, and then opened one of his figures and injected himself. After that, he transformed into a giant and grabbed Bob Step. Then he grabbed the evil dragon and started moving them through the city, which frightened a lot of people. Then Callister appeared and hit the giant, but Callister fell to the ground because of the piece of the hole that had caused him to fly earlier. After that, the giant fell, causing Bob Step to slip from the giant's hands, and she almost fell to the ground. But Koichi rushed toward her, climbed the walls, and flew high, catching her in midair, allowing her to use her special jumping power. However, Koichi couldn't use his talent again, and nearly fell to the ground, but the monster tried to grab him. Koichi took advantage of the monster's arm, which slowed his descent. He threw himself onto a pile of garbage to avoid getting hurt. After that, the monster almost stepped on him, but Razorhead suddenly appeared and erased the giant's powers from the office worker, returning him to his normal state and said, "Erased his giant powers." After that, he shrank, and we will catch him. After that, the police arrested the villains, and Callister went home. But Razorhead came to him and asked if he needed help. Callister replied, "I'm an important citizen, and I should help the heroes." Razorhead told him that the children's game they were playing would expose them to danger. Callister said they were doing things that the superheroes couldn't do, and told Razorhead that these captured villains could be dealt with before they did something wrong. Razorhead told him, "Any assault towards someone who hasn't committed a crime will make you the criminal." Callister said, "That logic is good. Isn't it true that we can only accuse someone after the act is done?" Razorhead responded, "So, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission?" Callister said, "You have some flaws like other evil characters." Callister replied, "I've heard that before," and then he left. we switched to Bob Step and Koichi, who asked Koichi how he was doing. He said he was fine but felt a little tired, but he should only interfere with what he knew, and that these battles were as if he were some kind of hero because he ended up falling and thought he might die. Bob Step told him that all of this was annoying and said he should stay away from the small details. She wanted to thank him, but after this annoyance, she didn't do it. After that, Callister came over and told Koichi, "I'll tell you why you fell." He told him to jump further than that, and it's all about the landing. He said, "It's great that you managed to imitate me when landing on the garbage bags, but there's a lot more to learn." Koichi said to Callister, "You told me I'm not your student." Callister replied, "You called me teacher." Koichi said, "That was a slip of the tongue, and saying teacher is heavy on the tongue." Callister said, "That's another reason. What he says or feels is just the truth." He told him, "Discover this, hero." Koichi questioned, "Isn't that a bit of a controlling argument?" After that, Bob Step moved to a place where two superheroes were fighting each other, and she watched the fight while reporting to Koichi. Koichi recalled his past when Callister said he had something for him that he would like, and gave him this equipment, telling him that it was like riding bikes, and that there were also body armor to wear under his jacket, and then he could go as fast as he could. After that, he moved to the superheroes but failed to land well, which caused him to fall onto the garbage bags. He recalled Callister's words to him about needing to change his name. Koichi told them his name was the Crawler. The extraordinary beings asked him, "Aren't you the nice good guy?" Koichi replied, "No, I'm the Crawler." Then Koichi told them to stop fighting each other, but they didn't like what he said and aimed a punch at him. After that, Callister came to them and attacked them to hit them, but Koichi stopped him, saying it wasn't necessary. Callister told him that hitting is the quickest result for such people, and that it makes him feel better. Koichi said to him, "You can't hit someone just for your feelings?" Callister asked, "Why not?" After that, Bob Stipe jumped over to them and asked the extraordinary beings, "Can I talk to you?" This surprised the extraordinary ones, and they said they were her followers and watch all her episodes. She said, "Hold on, let me sign for you." And while writing her signature, she said, "These two behind me are not bad, but they're disrespectful." After that, they heard a scream that caught their attention. Then we moved to the monster on the other side, a rocky beast, claiming, "No one can defeat me." It threw a punch at the building, destroying it, and a child fell from his stroller almost hitting the ground, but Koichi moved quickly and saved the child. After that, Callister attacked the monster and aimed a punch at it, but the beast struck Callister back, knocking him to the ground. The monster then declared, "No one can harm me anymore." After that, Koichi and Callister charged at the monster and worked together to bring it down. Bob Stipe said these heroes are trying to stop a widespread drug called Trigger that causes people to turn evil, and they are volunteering in that effort. After the monster fell to the ground, Callister delivered some quick punches to it, which eliminated it. Callister told it, "You were mistaken to think that your rush-made armor was anything great." Bob Stipe told Callister, "You always exaggerate." After the monster returned to its normal state, Callister tried to recognize it, but Koichi said, "You punched it hard." We then moved to the child's mother, who thanked Bob Stipe. Bob Stipe replied, "It's no problem," and joked with the child. After that, they restrained the evil man, and Callister asked Koichi to take a picture of the man's tongue. Bob Stipe noted that anyone who uses the Trigger drug ends up with a black tongue, and warned the extraordinary beings not to do that. Koichi said the police were coming, and Callister dashed away quickly, while Bob Stipe jumped high. The extraordinary beings asked Koichi, "Who are you?" Koichi replied, "We are the superheroes," and he left as well. Later, the police arrived at the crime scene. The investigator stated, "This villain has a black tongue, so I believe he used the Trigger drug, but why is his face distorted? I think someone was with him during the fight." The investigator's assistant said, "That's good because it makes our job easier." The investigator replied, "We have laws, and no one should break these laws," telling him, "I believe there are unlicensed extraordinary beings involved in this, but that's a mistake they need to be aware of." Now we move to the hero's home, where Bob Stipe was reading the news and mentioned that everyone was talking about today's fight. Koichi asked, "What did they say about us?" She replied, "Not much, but it seems everyone is calling you the guy with the strong punch and the Crawler." Koichi headed to the university, thinking that even if he became a hero, he'd still have to pay the bills. He had to earn a living, and the time he spent juggling school, home, and work felt like the most important period of his life. He slipped into an alley, used his quirk to hop up to the roof, climbed through the window, and said he was home, adding that he usually lived alone. A stranger sitting at his table, eating his food and drinking his canned coffee, greeted him with a casual, "Hey, make yourself at home," which shocked Koichi. "Who is this guy drinking my stuff, eating my food, watching my TV?" The man introduced himself. He was Knuckle Duster, Koichi's mentor. "See? I'm not some sketchy guy," he said. Koichi muttered that he still wasn't convinced. He asked asked how Knuckle Duster got in when the door was locked. "Through the window," Knuckle Duster replied. They looked over. Yep, the window was broken. Koichi opened the door next and found a girl rushing past him. She started doing her makeup and told him she was Pop Step. "Hey Pop," Koichi said, adding that her civilian look was pretty plain. Pop Step snapped, telling him not to say that again. Koichi reminded Knuckle Duster their patrol didn't start until night, right? Knuckle Duster said his day job had wrapped early, so he was free. Pop Step said she had a gig and needed to change, warning them not to peek. Koichi promised he wouldn't, and wondered when that curtain got put up. She flung Knuckle Duster's coat aside, claiming that spot was hers. Knuckle Duster pointed out the place was shared. Koichi added, "Actually, it's my place, okay?" Grabbing his bag, he said he was off to his part-time job. Knuckle Duster told him to do whatever he wanted. Pop Step waved him off. Koichi grumbled to himself this was his apartment in the first place. At work, Koichi wondered, what am I doing in a job like this? He daydreamed about better times, thinking his life should be better, and that he hadn't made a single friend since starting college. Meanwhile, Pop Step was performing. The crowd loved her, so she amped up her singing. A young boy tried to push through for a handshake, but a man shoved him back, knocking him down, and told him to stay in line. Another man came over, saying he understood but the kid still had to wait. A bespectacled guy added that if the boy barged in, he'd make Pop Step cry. He should cheer from where he stood. "Turn your burning feelings into light, let your love explode," he shouted, blasting a beam of light from his glasses. Pop Step thanked him for the cool light show. The kid, furious, called them liars, told them to shut up, injected himself with something, transformed, and lunged at Pop Step. Koichi had just finished work and figured he had time for a break when Pop Step sprinted past, chased by a monster. She jumped across rooftops but couldn't shake it. Knuckle Duster arrived and suggested a pincer attack. Pop Step kept running, yelling at the monster to back off because it was disgusting. Koichi managed to grab it. Knuckle Duster swung from the other side, but the blow missed. The slime covering the creature made Koichi lose his grip, and both heroes slipped and crashed. Pop Step ducked into a narrow gap between buildings. The monster searched for her. Koichi called and told her it only wanted a handshake, it was a fan. Pop Step re-emerged. The creature stuck out its hand. She shook it. The monster burst into tears, asked for a hug, wrapped around her, and even tried to kiss her. Koichi and Knuckle Duster dumped flour on them. "Flour soaks up moisture now, we can cook this dried-out snake," Knuckle Duster joked. They attacked, restrained the creature, and it reverted to human form. Koichi noted that trigger users end up naked because their clothes rip. "That's why you hit them before they change," Knuckle Duster said. Police sirens approached. Koichi said they were done for the night. Pop Step insisted on a shower first. Back at Koichi's place, Pop Step asked him to buy quality shampoos. Cheap stuff ruins hair. Knuckle Duster told Koichi the beer was gone. Koichi pointed out Knuckle Duster drank it all. Knuckle Duster just told him to buy more. Pop Step told Knuckle Duster to stop wandering around half naked. He replied he hadn't gone past his curtain. She lectured him on manners and asked him to smoke outside so she wouldn't smell like cigarettes. Ever heard of an idol who reeks of smoke? He ignored her, making her even angrier. Koichi said he'd go hang up the laundry and headed to the roof. Elsewhere, detectives Tsukauchi and Tanuma discussed recent sudden villain cases. Each person had taken a drug containing trigger IDO. Tanuma noted trigger was a quirk booster not approved by the government and was now flooding the black marketa dream drug that gives anyone hero-level power. But social order matters more than dreams. Tsukauchi said almost every incident happened in a tight area near the station and the old downtown east of Naruhata. Tanuma observed that made finding the source easier. Tsukauchi added that every transformed person said they got the trigger from a stranger, maybe free samples of a new product. Tanuma scoffed at giving away such expensive drugs for nothing and said figuring out the motive was key. He speculated it might be a political statement to hassle the authorities or an investment towards some larger goal. His imagination was running wild, so they needed to keep reality in focus. Back at Koichi's place, Koichi asked Pop Step if she'd gotten a message. She had those two guys who'd been beside the transformed boy, said they'd met him at the show. Koichi asked if the boy had been released. Pop Step didn't know but doubted he meant to hurt anyone. Someone probably tricked him into using the drug. She figured the guys assumed he could reveal who supplied it. Koichi said the boy could be a solid lead and suggested calling their mentor. Pop Step told him to hold on if Knuckle Duster saw the kid again, he'd punch him. Koichi set the phone down and agreed to keep the old man out of it for now. Koichi and Pop Step went out together. Koichi walked fast. Pop Step asked him to slow so she could keep pace. Was used to hopping around in those shoes. "Fine, grab my arm," he said. They ran into a group of girls who recognized Pop Step. One asked if she had another show today, said the glasses suited her better than an eye patch, and asked for a photo. Koichi snapped the picture. The girl then asked if Koichi was her boyfriend and if they were publicly announcing it. Pop Step said it wasn't like that. "No, that's totally wrong," Koichi added. Pop Step, annoyed, asked why he denied it so fast. Koichi wondered why she was upset. She told the girl he was just her manager helping her out. The girls said goodbye. Koichi remarked that Pop Step sure was popular. The bespectacled light beam guy appeared, introduced himself as Samazu, said it was good to see Pop Step, and greeted Koichi. Pop Step asked about his friend Namimaru. Samazu said Namimaru had gone home to pick up some gear with another guy and they were on their way. Samazu suggested finishing their talk at a nearby cafe. Pop Step agreed but said walking in wearing this outfit might be awkward. Suddenly, Knuckle Duster turned up and asked what they were doing, startling Koichi. Koichi said they were just buying drinks. Knuckle Duster said they could sit there and drink if they wanted. Samazu whispered, "Great, now the whole source of trouble is right here. What do we do?" Pop Step asked Koichi to come up with an excuse. "Let's move on to the girl who took a photo with Bob Step. Her name was Hachisuka, and she was happy with the picture. Her friend told her she didn't know Hachisuka followed these kinds of things, and said Hachisuka was kind of weird. But then, suddenly, a bee appeared and flew right into Hachisuka's eye. When that happened, Hachisuka told her friends she was heading to her part-time job. Her friend was surprised, asking, "You're going to work now?" And another friend asked, "Aren't you coming with us to karaoke?" Hachisuka told them, "Not this time, maybe next time," and left. After moving off on her own, Hachisuka introduced herself more, saying she's a high school student and works part-time as a villain. Her special thing is that she's the queen bee, and she has a large swarm of bees that possess harmful chemicals. Her job is to use all of that to stir up trouble in the city. She released the bees on people in the city, which caused the people to get injured and turn into monsters that started attacking others. This ended up separating Taro from Namimar. Next, we go to the police officer, who reports to Detective Tsukachi that a large group of evil monsters suddenly showed up all at once in the Naruhata shopping area. Detective Tsukachi says he's calling for an emergency deployment in that area immediately. Then we switch to Kodish and Bob Step. Caldster started running when he saw the dangerous bee flying above him. Bob Step told them about a message she got about a group of villains showing up, at least 10 of them. Kodish said, "That's impossible." Then they saw the hero Urget, who was the first one to arrive on the scene. After that, all the heroes showed up and attacked the villains, including a hero named Mahi. The heroes defeated all the villains. Bob Step said she thought the heroes had finished dealing with the problem. Kodish then asked, "So, where did the teacher go? And why was he in such a hurry?" Bob Step said she had no idea. Next, we switch to Caldster, who caught a dangerous bee, and then move on to Namimar, who was looking for Taro. Caldster appeared behind Namimar, grabbed him, and told him he thought there was a suspicious person nearby who was using bees. Caldster destroyed the bee, which caused Hachisuka to get hurt and start bleeding. Hachisuka said she doesn't like people who treat young girls badly. Taro was next to her and asked if she was alright. Hachisuka replied, "Of course, I'm fine," and told Taro that he was really sweet. She held on to him and asked him to come with her. Taro said, "But my friend is waiting for me." She told him, "Aren't I your friend too?" She then said, "Let's go," and showed him her phone so he could see the photo with Bob Step. Now back to Kodish's team. Namimar arrived and told them what happened to him and that he had lost Taro. Caldester threw a punch at one of the odd characters, who were members of a party of 3 that caused trouble for people in the city. After stopping them from their brutal actions, Kutish said, "Their tongues aren't black," meaning they weren't involved with the trigger. But Kutish looked at Caldester and remembered the words of Namimar directed at Caldester about standing up against the bee users. After that, Caldester took to the air, followed by Kutish and Bob Steep. Next, we move to Kutish's roof as he trains with Caldester. Kutish asked Caldester if he was involved with the bee user. Caldester delivered a strong punch to Kutish, leaving Bob Steep astonished. But Kutish said, "I don't think I'm cut out for hand-to-hand combat after all. Perhaps we shouldn't even waste time on this training," he said. Caldester replied, "You're right," and told him he'd take all the hits. He removed his punching gear and threw it at Kutish, asking him to find another way to handle things. After that, he delivered several blows to Kutish, knocking him to the ground. Bob Steep approached Kutish to check on him and told Caldester to ease up because Kutish was very weak. Kutish noted that he realized late that Caldester was holding back on him, saying if he hit him with full force, he would be dead. This also applies to the villains, He stops before killing them and seems to only add a little extra power. Bob Steep responded that excessive force is still excessive force. Then, we shift to Hachisuka, who was on a call with her leader. She told him she had been using too much trigger and that she only had a limited amount left. "What's the matter? We got data from him, didn't we?" she asked. He replied that it's a matter of efficiency, and it strongly affects a person's mental state, impacting their physical abilities, and that features are no exception. Hachisuka paused to buy ice cream and recorded it, only for her leader to tell her that strong willpower is necessary to use a normal feature. Hachisuka asked him, "What about the heroes?" He confirmed it was true for the villains as well, and told her the people they were looking for had an explosive passion within their hearts, and were all ready to pull the trigger themselves. She found it annoying that those types of people were bothersome. Next, we returned to Hachisuka with one of her associates, who told her she had indeed been chosen to unleash her anger. He asked, "What are you talking about, you fool?" She replied that he seemed occupied with something else, and expected he could handle it. He, angry, snapped, "Don't mess with me." Hachisuka told him to release the anger inside him and turn it into power. She injected him with trigger, transforming him into a monster. He swung a punch at Hachisuka, but she dodged it and moved up high, urging him to show his anger from above. Afterward, she told him to fight anyone no one sees but him. Then she jumped to the ground, jokingly saying, "I'm kidding." The person fully transformed into a giant beast and started wreaking havoc in the city. Kutish rushed over, and soon Bob Steep joined him, asking Kutish if they could deal with the situation. Then, the monster attacked Kutish, swinging a punch. Kutish managed to dodge and told Bob Steep to get the people out of the area while he kept it busy until the rest of the pros arrived. Bob Steep flew up high, informing people about the monster and that they needed to evacuate, leading to chaos as people fled. Meanwhile, the monster continued attacking Kutish, landing some blows, but Kutish was able to escape. When the beast tried to take down one of the city's residents, Kutish rushed in to save him and asked the person if he was okay, urging him to run quickly. The monster got close to Kutish and almost caught him, but Caldister intervened just in time, delivering a strike to the monster that pushed it away. However, the blow didn't faze the monster, which launched another attack on them. They managed to dodge it, and Caldister told Kutish to harness his inner strength and focus it in his fist at the moment he attacks. Kutish said it was dangerous to get close and that they needed to contain it from a distance. Caldister insisted that was unnecessary, claiming that punches attract punches. The monster attacked, landing several blows, but Caldister dodged many and also countered with strikes. However, the monster gathered its power and swung at Caldister, who evaded the hit and countered with a powerful blow at the same time, knocking the monster to the ground. Caldister noted that this monster's attacks were fast and strong, putting a lot of force into its decisive blows. When it came at him with all that concentrated power, the rest of its body was weak, so facing it was easy, yet still very dangerous. Caldister was bleeding, stating this monster was aggressive and massive, which made it a wicked enemy. When it came to villains, they either fought hard or went home. Next, we returned to Kutish's roof, where Caldister was training with Kutish. Caldister expressed that he'd been fighting too many weaklings lately, but it didn't satisfy him. His door was open to any dangerous and big scoundrels like the one before. He continued training, telling Kutish that many men like that didn't complain if you beat them to death. Kutish replied, "I think they would complain." Kutish accidentally took a punch from Caldister during training, and Caldister apologized. Bob Steep then treated Kutish, who was happy to see Caldister back to his best form. Bob Steep asked Kutish why he was happy he got hit. "Are you an idiot?" We shift to Hachisuka, who was also on the phone with her leader. She told him she had picked a strong man this time, but those people interfered again, especially this old man. "He's just so annoying." The leader reassured her that their presence was beneficial because it allowed them to gather combat data without interference from police or heroes. He mentioned he wanted to keep this situation intact. Hachisuka pointed out that they love to catch them. The leader told her to gather the data but not to overdo it, and that would show she was a good coordinator. Hachisuka asked, "Is that my job?" Then a person approached her and asked, "Are you Hachisuka?" She replied, "You're very well built, sir." He said he didn't know she'd be this charming. She grabbed him and said, "Let's go. Enough with the introductions." The man replied, "You're charging in. Are you sure?" She said she couldn't wait to see his wild side. "Sir." They walked together, and then we shift to a villain moving quickly through the city, being chased by the hero Angnam. Angnam exited his vehicle and sprinted after the villain trying to catch him. Just as he was getting close enough to grab him, the villain dodged and punched Angnam, causing him to fall to the ground and crash into the walls, damaging his armor. Angnam remarked, "Good thing we had the airbags." We moved to Kutish, who is training in the morning. He mentioned that there's no one around at this early hour, so he can practice slipping and gliding as he likes. Then he saw someone else jogging and said there's another person training. He said he would overtake him, increased his speed, and passed the man. Looking at his hands, he said the real problem is the breaking. He wondered if there's anything he could do and suggested maybe adding spikes to some gloves. When he passed the man, the guy sped up and got closer to him, which startled Kutish. He tried to stop but nearly crashed into the walls, but the man helped him and saved him. After that, the man apologized to Kutish, saying he almost made him hit the wall. He asked him if he's a local student. Kutish replied, to some extent, and the man introduced himself as the turbo guy, Anjanim, extending his hand for a handshake. Kutish was surprised and shook his hand, saying it was amazing and that he really admires him. Anjanim thanked him and told him he was sliding well and asked how his ability worked. He inquired if anything came out of his feet or hands. Kutish said it's a kind of repulsive force. Anjanim asked, can you only move forward? Kutish replied, I can move anywhere, and started showing him his power. Anjanim said it was really a good ability, but he wasn't great at sharp turns and mentioned that his younger brother couldn't turn at all and crashed into trees. Kutish admitted he also crashes into things when he moves fast, or rather, he doesn't have brakes, and usually stops using the sole of his shoe. However, if there's a lot of momentum, he loses control. Anjanim said the problem might be in how he uses his ability. He asked, can you go backward, right? Kutish said instead of seeing it as stopping, can't you compensate for your momentum by suddenly accelerating in the opposite direction? After that, Kutish did it and succeeded, then was really amazed, starting to repeat it over and over. He said, this issue is solved. Anjanim replied, you still need to work on it, but it's a great advantage in high-speed movement and tight maneuvers, right? Kutish said, but thinking about it, my ability to go fast doesn't mean much to me. Anjanim told him no, speed is very important, and said when people are unlucky enough to fall into a catastrophe or a villainous attack, do you have any idea what they think? Kutish replied, what? Something like save me? Anjanim said no, it's hurry up and save me, and told him that in life-threatening situations, everyone feels fear just like a lost child, and you need to run as fast as you can, grab them, and move them to safety because speed is the most important thing for a hero, and that's what he thinks. He asked Kutish, as a student, what he thinks about joining his organization after graduation to use his ability. Kutish said he doesn't have a license. Anjanim replied that there's always a chance to get a license while working in the field as a support employee, since we have some abilities that we should use for the benefit of society, right? He told him he was building a team of heroes, and they also have focused abilities for employment. Then we face challenges using our collective strength, and that's how we do it. He handed him his ID card, mentioning he's in the Editon team. After that, he got ready to run again and told Kutish to contact him if he was interested. He left, and Kutish looked at Anjanim's card and felt happy. After that, we shift back to the monster Anjanim was chasing. Anjanim was pursuing it, and the monster told him he was running faster than last time, so it seemed he had lightened his load. While chasing the monster, Anjanim remembered what his assistants had said about this monster being very dangerous and attacking while running at incredible speed. Then the monster told Anjanim that he finally found his design to sacrifice himself for speed and risk his life to overcome it. But Anjanim moved closer to the monster, preparing a trap for it, and threw himself onto a spongy support. Anjanim's henchmen were waiting for him, and when Anjanim suddenly stopped, he said to the monster, now show me how you will stop. The monster planted its foot in the ground to stop, then suddenly spread its wings and flew into the air. Anjanim realized it always escaped with this trick. He's not some street racer, but more like a bat. He contacted one of his team, who informed him that the villain left the highway and was heading toward the old town. She told him the second team was ready for him. After that, the second team moved and started chasing the monster. The monster said, so you're a network, huh? You're just a bunch of insignificant losers. The monster then attacked the second team and managed to escape from them as well. It almost got caught by one of the heroes from the second team, but the monster used its wings to fly away. One of the heroes in the second team said it was heading to Bay Street 4. Anjanim replied, I'm on my way to you, and told them not to act recklessly. He almost got run over by a car, but nothing happened to him, and he continued chasing the monster. While running, he saw Kutish moving in the direction of the monster, and Kutish tripped the monster. Then Kaldaster directed a blow at the monster, leading to its defeat. When Anjanim reached it, the monster was bound, which surprised him. Kaldaster, Kutish, and Bob were perched on a roof nearby Anjanim. Kutish told him the lighting was very poor, and many old buildings made it difficult to catch the villains. Kaldaster told him that once you manage to predict how the villain will escape and stop him, you need to know the terrain. Kutish revealed himself to Anjanim and said they were the happy people helping the defenders of justice. They walked away, and one of Anjanim's workers asked if they should chase those strangers. Anjanim replied, no, let them go. We've done enough for one day. Then we shift back to Kutish, who is exercising. Anjanem approached him from behind and thanked him for that day. Kutish replied, you startled me. Anjanem asked him, are you that guy? Kutish said, no, I'm just an unknown jogger. Anjanem said if you meet that guy, tell him he's running well, and also asked if it was possible to get back the card he gave him, which annoyed Kutish. Anjanem asked Kutish if he remembered how he talked about the suitable abilities for the job, and that if he found the right profession for him, he would respect that. As a professional, this is the best advice he could give him, and it might be rude to talk about work with a fellow runner like him. Kutish took out the card and handed it to Anjanem, saying, Anjanem, you're very frustrating. He apologized and suggested they try to be cheerful, and they ran together again. Kutichi had an appointment with his new friends, and they wanted to drink tea. Kutichi told them his house was nearby and that he could serve them tea at his place. Afterward, they moved to his house, but the building looked extremely scary from the outside, which made his friends feel afraid. Kutichi grabbed one of his female friends and asked her to come with him, assuring them he would serve tea and that they shouldn't worry. The next day at the university, everyone started talking about Kutichi, claiming he tried to kidnap the girl inside an abandoned building. People began warning each other and grew fearful of him. Later, Kutichi returned to his house alone and remarked how spacious it was, saying it was the first time he had felt this way. Then, Popstep and Caldister appeared in his life again. As usual, they argued about Caldister's smoking. Popstep told Caldister she had warned him multiple times not to smoke in the room. Caldister replied it wasn't a big deal and told her not to worry. Popstep said it was shortening her lifespan. Kutichi thought to himself that this party never ended, but this suit made everything bearable. Next, the news reported a person named Iaro, who had robbed a jewelry store and was wanted by the police. The superhuman forces began searching for him. Later, in an alley near the street, Iaro was seen holding a blood-stained knife, facing off against another superhuman. Popstep then arrived at Kutichi's house and said she needed to make a playlist for the upcoming party. She entered and asked Kutichi, "Are you here?" He replied, "Of course, this is my house." She opened the fridge, took a cup of sweets, and asked what he was doing. Kutichi said he was repairing his damaged suit. Popstep suggested he replace it with a sturdier one, but he insisted it had to be this way, as wearing it filled him with courage. Popstep asked if the suit excited him, and Kutichi said he had decided to eat the cup of sweets. Popstep replied she hadn't heard him tell her not to eat it and asked him to write his name if it was important. Kutichi said it didn't matter and asked if she couldn't back down from an argument. Popstep told him not to treat her that way at all. Kutichi said next time he bought sweets, he'd get extra for her. She clarified that wasn't her point and called him stingy for repairing his suit instead of buying a new one. Kutichi angrily said his suit wasn't worn out and told her to talk about anything else, as he wouldn't compromise on this. Popstep said, "Fine, as you wish." Kutichi then showed her a collection of many suits, explaining they weren't cheap but exclusive merchandise for hardcore fans, with limited editions released annually. He owned every one except a version made 5 years ago during the Silver Age. Popstep asked if he was missing one, and Kutichi said he had given it to someone. He told her that even in middle school, he was serious about becoming a hero and took the superhuman hero exam at Tokyo School to join the hero course. On the morning of the test, he was running very late. As he neared the venue, he heard men shouting about a child drowning. Kutichi wondered what to do. He might miss the test, but decided to jump in and save the child. It turned out the water wasn't deep, and rescuing the child was easy. Afterward, he climbed up, and hot air was blown on him. He asked if anyone had seen his clothes, and a woman handed them to him. He said they weren't his, but the child's, and threw them to the kid before rushing to the exam. He told Popstep he was late for the test and often wondered if he would have kept trying to become a hero if that hadn't happened. But he left his heroic spirit beside his precious suit. So, the boy whose name I don't even know told her that this child had become a superhero, and admitted that when he was little, he was saved by someone, and wanted to thank them very much. Kauta saw this superhero on the news and said, "It's good that he became a superhero." Popstep said, "That's stupid of you. You're telling me you spent your life playing your usual hero games." She told him what he did was foolish and left. Kauta asked Popstep, "What's upsetting you now? Shouldn't you see things from a new perspective?" After that, Popstep flew toward her house, calling him an idiot. When she entered her house, she told herself he shouldn't be so easily swayed, and said the boy he was talking about was her, and that she wasn't a boy to begin with. She took out Kuta's jacket and hugged it, but she's a girl. She remembered that day when she tried to cross the river and took a shortcut. Because of the rain, the ground was slippery, causing her to fall into the river, but she never forgot her savior since then, and he stayed in her mind. Even though she met him late, he also saved her, but she couldn't find a way to thank him. She remembered when he told her, "You can't back out of a fight, can you?" Popstep said, "That's not true," put the jacket in her bag, bought some candy, and flew to Kuta's house. Kuta opened the door and asked, "What's up? "Did you forget something?" Pop Step said, "There's something I want to tell you." When she entered, she found Caldistro inside, which annoyed her. Caldistro ate the candy with Pop Step, and Kuda asked, "Didn't you bring any candy for me?" She replied, "Caldistro ate your share." Kuda asked, "What did you want to tell me? Is it about what's in the bag?" Pop Step angrily said, "What's in the bag is mine alone. Don't touch it at all." She left, leaving Kuda puzzled. Caldistro asked, "What brought her here again?" We moved to Pop Step's house, where she said, "Why is this happening to me?" Then she looked at the bag and put on Kuda's jacket. Next, we shift to the police station, where Akira was released after being questioned about the trigger injection. The investigator asked Akira, "Who gave you the trigger?" He replied, "I don't know. They're the ones who contact me." After that, Akira went to Hachisuka's hideout. Hachisuka told him, "I have a new dose." Then Akira appeared as a monster in the street, terrifying the people. Kuda headed to Akira's location, and Pop Step joined him. Kuda asked, "Haven't we caught this guy before? I thought he'd be imprisoned forever with the villains." Pop Step said, "It seems you're not officially registered as a villain unless you keep committing quirk-related crimes. Once isn't enough." Kuda said, "I get it now, so it's better to stop him before he starts a crime spree." He moved to attack, and Pop Step said, "He always acts like he's defending criminals." Kuda attacked the villain, who said, "You again, Kuda." The villain struck, but Kuda dodged and felt happy because the villain called him by his name, not Cake Maker. Pop Step said, "You shouldn't be happy when a villain calls you by name." The villain attacked again, but they escaped his blows. Kuda told Pop Step, "He's moving behind me. I'll guide him to a safe spot." Pop Step said, "Caldistro isn't here today," remembering when he told them he had other work. They wondered, does he do other things? The villain attacked Kuda, landing a few hits, but Kuda dodged them all and said, "This villain's speed and strength have increased." We moved to Hachisuka, who said, "What I injected into Akira was TRD, a dopamine-boosting cocktail. The results are a huge increase in his psychological aggression and quirk overall. It doesn't have a big effect, does it? I wish I could see firsthand how tough this man is." We shift to Kuta dodging the villain's attacks and escaping his blows, saying, "The ground is destroyed." The villain's attacks were hard to dodge, and he nearly managed to land a hit. But just in time, the superhuman intervened, blocking the villain's strike aimed at Kutaishi and pushing the villain away with a counterattack. After that, the superhuman launched an assault on the villain, delivering several blows until the police arrived. "Bob Step, the police are here." The villain fled immediately. Bob Step then approached Kutaishi and told him they needed to escape now. Kutaishi turned to the superhuman and said, "Thank you for saving me. Who are you?" The superhuman replied that his name was Standal, and that he was an intervenor like Kutaishi, which filled Kutaishi with joy. Standal said, "See you soon," and left. Later, at Kutaishi's home, he expressed his disbelief at Standal's incredible skill, describing how strong and precise his sword strikes were. He also mentioned that Standal carried a sword like his own. Bob Step told him, "You let people influence you too much." Soon after, Bob Step received a message from Samazu and his crew. She read it aloud. It mentioned a famous and exceptional fighter who used to attend their school, a man of true character who never made mistakes. Upon hearing about them, this man requested a meeting at the restaurant in front of the station. Kutaishi said, "That sounds good. I'd like to work more with the locals." He added, "I told you he resembles Standal a lot. This place is full of people with a strong sense of justice. I hope these hidden heroes become more active, and I'll do my part too." Calder said, "Yes, but those who fight based solely on their personal sense of justice are dangerous. That's sound logic." Kutaishi replied, "You might be right." Bob Step told Kutaishi, "I told you not to take this man's words too seriously." She then informed Calder, "This man only wants to meet me and Kutaishi. Please stay out of it." Later at the restaurant they met the man. Upon seeing him they were horrified. The man asked, "So, the old man isn't with you now?" He then questioned Kutaishi and Bob Step, "What exactly do you think I am?" Kutaishi hesitated, recalling the man's actions, and said, "I think you're," but trailed off, unwilling to call him a villain outright. Bob Step said, "I believe you're a man of slander and murder." Kutaishi agreed. "Of course, she's right." The man replied, "Talking to you is a waste of time," and left. Kutaishi asked, "What did he even want to discuss with us?" Bob Step shrugged, "Who cares? He's not worth it." Meanwhile, the monster continued to flee but was struck by someone. Then, Standal appeared and told him, "Your resolve weakens because of the fear inside you." He approached and delivered a powerful blow, severing one of the monster's limbs. Standal then displayed some images declaring, "This man is next." Hachizuka was watching him, deeply impressed. Some members of the Abigawa Tensho family were sitting together in a pub, feeling extremely angry because they had been asked to submit their names to be put on a list of villains just because they were Yakuza who followed the chivalrous code. But Rogia didn't mind being treated as a villain, since he believed that a man's way of life doesn't change because of politics or time. Even if you have to face the hero someday, you stick to your principles. A few months earlier, at the Abigawa Tensho family headquarters, Standal had attacked them. He struck at them, but couldn't land a hit. The family members transformed one by one, fighting back, but Standal dodged their blows. Then something happened that made them freeze in place. Standal took advantage of this opportunity and cut them down with his sword. When the rest of the family arrived, he killed one of them too. He introduced himself, which left them terrified. Standal then went back to his hideout to change clothes and return to his normal life. But Hachisuka greeted him there, calling him the judge, though she mispronounced it. Standal corrected her with his real name, introducing himself properly, a supernatural being, red for life and black for death, and that the role of the judge is to carve space between them. Without his mask, he said, he's just an ordinary man, serving the heroic ideal. Then he gave blood samples he'd collected from the Abigawa family to Hachisuka, because they were very useful since the Yakuza always exploit employee benefits. But the medical test could be fatal. Just as Standal killed those villains, he said he would kill the remaining villains too, including Hachisuka herself. But Hachisuka had people who would protect her, and at the same time, they were destroying the city. We cut to the hospital, where Moyo and Suga went to visit Rept, who was sick. Moyo brought Rept some gifts, but Rept wanted something else. He just wanted to smoke instead. He couldn't smoke because they'd taken his lighter. Moyo tried to help, but when he lit the fire, the alarm went off, making the nurses angry at them for breaking the no smoking rule inside the hospital. So they stepped outside for a smoke, talking about when Rept would be discharged. It would be soon, after checking his test results. He hadn't spent much time in the hospital, even though his accident could have killed him, but being a lizard made it easier to heal. All this happened because of Trigger. When they used it, it kept him from dying, but also almost killed him because of his transformation. Even though he had wings, it was hard for anyone to catch him, and Moyo said Trigger made his firepower even stronger. Suga listened, thinking about what they were saying, and asked Rept if he wanted to fly again, but Rept refused, since he almost died last time. He took that as a warning. That made Suga reflect, too. Then, we jumped to Hachisuka meeting with Suga. She asked about Suga's friends, but they hadn't come with him. She needed to tell them what happened to a recent group of villains. They needed to be careful, to unite their strength, so they wouldn't be killed by this superhuman who kills villains. She was putting on an act to make sure she didn't lose her collection of villains. Suga didn't seem to care about her warning, and said he could face that monster alone, maybe even beat him, but no matter how fired up he was, he'd still need help from his friends. As Suga was leaving, Standal approached and said, "No more games," and that he'd come to kill him. Hachisuka tried to give Suga some trigger, telling him that if he got killed, Moyo and Rept would be next and he had to save them. But Suga smashed the trigger, saying he didn't need that drug to kill Standal just. His weapon was enough, and he wouldn't play things their way. Hachisuka had another idea to make the fight more interesting. She unleashed a swarm of bees that injected Suga with trigger, transforming him into a monster. He looked at her, behind her smile, remembering his painful past, how everyone judged him by his looks, and never for who he really was. After that, Suga turned into a monster. Meanwhile, while Koichi was walking around, he heard Suga's screams and rushed over. He was surprised that Suga had used trigger again and was ordered to stand down, as Standal would take care of things. Suga attacked Standal, who withstood his blows, and then Standal landed a heavy hit on Suga that nearly killed him. Right as Standal was about to finish him off, Koichi realized Suga might die, so he moved quickly, pushing Standal away and grabbing Suga to get him out of reach of Standal's sword. Standal stopped Koichi by striking him, knocking him to the ground. Standal believed the monster was worthless and deserved to die, but Koichi had other plans. She used his power to escape, carrying Suga and trying to save him. Standal didn't give up. He tasted Koichi's blood that spilled when he got hurt, and when he did, Koichi was frozen in place and couldn't move at all. That's Standal's ability. If he licks someone's blood, he can freeze them. Standal approached them and blocked their way to the main street, drawing his sword. To him, both of them were villains, and he would end their lives together so no one would ever know about them. But then Caldister showed up just in time to protect Koichi as they were on the same team. Standal tried to avoid fighting Caldister and back down, saying their goals were similar, both going after villains. But there was a clear difference. Caldister fought for good, while Standal was a crazed killer. Caldister's strength also scared Standal, since his punches packed an iron force. Caldister gave Standal a chance to run away. He took a wire from his clothes and told him if he accepted it and left, that'd be best for him, but if he tried to cross the wire, he would be in serious danger. Standal thought a lot before making a move, knowing Caldister's strength, but stepped back not to retreat, but to gain gain speed and try to land a blow. Caldister set a trap and was the one who crossed the wire, which let him land a punch on Standal, sending Standal crashing to the ground. Koichi was astonished by Caldister's strength. Caldister grabbed Standal's mask, thinking that those who wear masks feel like they're no longer themselves, believing they're invincible heroes. This kind of person has a big problem, because they ignore societal rules and their own safety when attacking, but get exposed themselves when someone fights back. In the end, Caldister said, "I'm just flesh and blood. Whoever forgets that won't have much resolve in the end." Just as Caldister was about to leave, Standal came to, attacked him again, and managed to injure him with a few blows. Caldister got angry and started hitting back, but Standal backed off, licked Caldister's blood from his wound, and froze, him achieving his goal, then ran away, bleeding. Bob Step came while Caldister was treating Koichi's wounds. Koichi was in a lot of pain. Caldister asked Bob Step to check on Suga. She opened her medical kit and treated Suga. Upset, Koichi tried to comfort Suga so he wouldn't feel alone or that everyone feared him, and was happy they'd survived the fight with Standal. Suga was surprised at how Koichi could smile after nearly dying and thought he was crazy, but Bob Step told Suga he was just a fool, not crazy. We then moved to Standal, who's angry, realizing there's still a lot missing for him to beat Caldister. More than anything, he lacked resolve. Hachisuka was with him, thinking that living and working hard are only truly enjoyable if you have resolve. Standal got angry, threw a knife at Hachisuka, knocking her to the ground. Then he used the knife to sear his own face, making a new mask his own face, and swore he'd never wear another. This would help him see the world uncovered, with his own eyes. Hachisuka regained consciousness, pulled the knife out of her eye, and was happy it happened, since she found it fun. Standal kept moving, still bleeding heavily, heading out to face the world. Let's move on to Koichi when he was studying at the university and was exhausted and asleep from the heavy workload he was doing day and night. When the teacher finished, Koichi woke up and went to the university cafeteria to get his meal. While he was eating, at the same moment, he was studying a book about heroes. Then a girl named Makoto came up to him, wanting to know which book Koichi was reading. Koichi told her that this book was about the science of heroes, which surprised her because this book was written by one of their private university teachers, and it was also a difficult book to read. She asked him to copy notes from one of the students in his club to make things easier for himself. However, Koichi was not a member of any club. Then it appeared to her that he was studying alone, which made him feel embarrassed. Then they reached an agreement that she would attend the teacher Arano's seminar, and in return, they would call him the Ruins Crawler. Naruhata East wanted a guy knowledgeable about this place, and would obviously benefit from him. The agreement was that she would help him study, and he would assist her with her matter. Then we moved to Koichi's house while Bob Step was there. She heard Makoto and Koichi joking around. Then she gathered her things and tried to leave, but hid from them. Then Koichi entered his home and asked Makoto to wait outside while he arranged his room. They found Koichi's home completely messy. He started picking things up from the floor, and his superhero jacket had also disappeared so he wouldn't be recognized as a superhero. He threw everything behind the curtain, causing it to fall on Bob Step's head. Then Makoto entered and began preparing and organizing the study materials for him while Koichi made drinks for them. She wrote lecture notes and previous exam questions and asked him to attend the lectures that were graded, which made Koichi feel reassured. After presenting her with the drink, she planned to review with him the required part for the upcoming test, which was Chapter 3 from the book World of Heroes. She then opened the book and started searching for Chapter 3. She explained to him the term volunteers, which is a system of civilian peacekeeping that arises spontaneously during social unrest. These groups are temporary until the society stabilizes, and then members are integrated into official systems or eliminated. She then asked if he remembered what he learned in modern history class about the birth of superheroes, which was familiar to Koichi. Makoto began explaining it to him again, that when humanity first acquired powers, it caused social turmoil. A response was required, and some citizens volunteered and used their powers to impose public order. After that, laws were enacted to regulate the use of powers, and volunteers gained an official legal basis for their actions, thus becoming heroes. This led Koichi to recall all of this, but that was the official story. Then it was time for a short quiz, and Makoto asked Koichi where the first official hero licensing place was established in the world. It was a location in the United States, in the state of Rhode Island, where 189 volunteers were subject to what was called the New Rhode Island State Law. She asked again, how many of these citizens does he think were approved to become official heroes? Koichi didn't think they all became superheroes, and believed some weren't heroic types, and imagined Custer among them. He answered that about half were approved, but that was incorrect. The correct answer was only 7 out of 189, and the others were classified as villains because they used their powers illegally. The prevailing view then was that the determined volunteers won public support support and became the first heroes, but that wasn't true. She also said the real goal of the licensing system was not to promote villains, but to define what makes a person villainous. She began telling him about some incidents that appeared in newspapers, dividing people into heroes and villains. She continued explaining, and Koichi was astonished by what he was hearing. In the end, she told him that volunteers are the private justice system and were the ones who established private justice for heroes. On the other side, Bob Step felt extremely angry that Makoto was alone with Koichi. Then Makoto gave the book. B went to Koichi and told him that this was everything, which led to a feeling of gratitude towards her. But before it ended, she asked him a question about his opinion on the decisive factor that separates heroes from villains. However, he did not know and began to wonder if they followed the spirit of the law or the spirit of their justice. Then Makoto did not answer him about this question and told him it was a secret because it was the subject of her independent study and she could not tell him. But if he helped her with what she wanted, she would tell him then and asked him if he was ready to help her. Koichi was ready for that, but he asked her what was on her mind. Then she told him that she would conduct a field study on volunteer heroes in Naruhata, and through studying this subject it might be possible to get a new perspective on how the hero system originated, which caused Koichi a lot of tension. Then he told her that he had heard before about their activities, and that they put in a lot of effort to keep the streets safe, but he tried to make her feel fear so she would not approach them. However, she would rely on him as her personal guard, which surprised Koichi. Then Makoto went and said goodbye to him and told him she would meet him on Saturday at 10 a.m. Koichi then said to himself that he was now in a difficult position and must find a way to deceive her. Then Bob Step appeared to him, which frightened him due to her presence and surprised him. Then we moved to Makoto's house. She started entering all the data into the computer until her brother, Inspector Naoma, came to her and she told him about it. Then he sat beside her and asked if he was responsible for crimes related to workplace benefits. He also asked if he had any information to share with her about heroes and villains, but Naoma refused to give Makoto any information about the investigations. However, Makoto asked him for this in exchange for an interview with one of the famous superheroes, but Naoma refused again and gave her advice not to approach any villains out of curiosity because their existence is inherently linked to crime. But Makoto believed politically that the crime is condemned, not the criminal, and that heroes and villains are two sides of the same coin, and sometimes the fine line between legal and illegal is thin, and that she supports this position. But Naoma did not agree with her words because she spoke frankly. Nevertheless, no matter what their logic says, many people say there is no problem as long as they do not cross the line. Then they begin to stumble directly to this extent, whether they are victims or perpetrators. Makoto thanked him for the advice and told him he asked her not to fail, but that was not Naoma's intention. He meant that she should not approach danger. Then we moved to Koichi's house. Bob Step felt great anger towards the girl because she came to the house and considered herself one of the angels of the house, and that she did not understand the concept of personal space, and that she should not have hidden from her. Then the next day, training began between Koichi and Calder. Koichi began slipping around Calder, which led to Calder's admiration for his movements, and he told him that he had improved a lot compared to before. But Bob Step's opinion was that Koichi was very strange and annoying, but Calder responded to her, telling her that if he caused a problem for his opponent, this was an effective technique. However, Koichi noticed that Bob Step had been in a bad mood in recent days. Then Koichi told Calder about Makoto's research, and that he had to help her. But for Calder, this behavior was not good, and it was possible they would be discovered, and they would have many police and villains coming after them. But Calder thought about silencing Makoto, but in his own way. Koichi told him that he would deal with her without violence, and feared for her from Calder's anger. Then Calder agreed to this and asked him not to mix personal and professional matters, and Bob Step agreed with this decision. Then Calder said goodbye and left. Then we moved to West Naruhata, where Koichi was waiting for Makoto. Then Makoto came to him and Koichi was amazed by her beauty, which led him to ask Makoto if there was something strange about her clothes, but Koichi thought she was very wonderful, and told her that. But Bob Step was watching him from the other side. Then Makoto told Koichi that she knew about some areas where they had appeared before, and wanted to go gather information from these places. Then they walked together. Kutish was asked if they had met them, and that they would be lucky, and Makoto thought their meeting would be perfect for them. But she wants to know how the public views them, and she had previously spoken with Kutish about this factor that separates heroes from villains when the superhero system was launched. Then Kutish wanted to know what she had promised him and that she would tell him about it. Makoto told him that the law or ethics, but rather popular support. Then she told him that powers differ greatly. Therefore, There are limits to the success of a uniform set of rules in restricting them, and for this reason, he must trust the user to distinguish between right and wrong. The hero ranking system is a popularity contest among heroes. She explained this when the legislation hadn't caught up, but Makoto wants to know now how the Naruhata team, who are also called primitive heroes from the locals, will be received. Naturally, they play a role in the basics of the superpower society and the modern hero system. Then Kutish also felt excited because he wants to know the people's opinion about his team as well. Makoto then asked them to start talking to people on the street and asked him to film these interviews. The first interview began with Namimar and his friend Samazo. Samazo started talking about unlicensed heroes and that he knows Kutish is one of them. They almost exposed Kutish's secret, but he tried to silence them with a badge and began talking about Bob Stepp, who was an online singer and now patrols the streets. They do not want her to be harmed because they admire her a lot. Then they told her about Kaldster, who is a very dangerous man. Everyone started sharing their opinion about the Cake Man, who is Kutishim said he is a serious man. Others said he does it to get closer to people so they don't think less of him. Among these people was Hachisuka, who expressed admiration for Kaldster's strength, and the rest also objected to Kaldster fighting with sharp weapons. Then Makoto started collecting data, and the majority were about Bob Stepp because she is cute and sings well, and Kaldster is bad and dangerous, and Cake Man Kutish is scary but useful and kind. This seemed to be their brief summary, which made Samazo and Namimar laugh. Suddenly, a thief came and stole Makoto's computer and escaped quickly. While running, he was playing with a ball and was skillful at it, dodging people with the ball. He calls himself Yotsura, and his skill is football. Then Samazo and Namimar chased after him. Kutish gave the camera to Makoto and went ahead to disappear, changing his clothes to catch the thief. But Bob Stepp came to Kutish and told him this is good for us until Makoto stays at home and distances herself from all data about them. However, Kutish did not agree with this, and said the computer must be stopped, so he moved to catch the thief. When he tried to stop him, the thief dodged Kotich and knocked him down with a ball strike. Then Samazo hit the thief, causing him to fall. The computer almost fell to the ground, but Kutish saved it. Then Samazo and Namimar gathered and delivered several blows to the thief. However, Kutish did not like this behavior because he dislikes violence. Then Makoto arrived and met Kutish in front of her while he was handing her the computer. He told her it fell while he was trying to recover it. Makoto asked if Kutish was the one who retrieved the computer, but Kutish explained to her that one of the volunteers Makoto collected data on was the one who did it. He told her that he is great. After that, they said goodbye to Samazo and Namimar. Makoto also thanked Kutish and told him she obtained some data today. They were being monitored by Bob Stepp, and she felt very angry. Then Makoto asked Kutish a question while folding her hand as if she was good at detecting lies, and asked him if he was the Cake Man or not. Then Kutish denied that he was that person. Then we move on to Makoto's house, and Naoma asked if Makoto was facing a problem. She told him she was having trouble gathering something from the data she collected. Naoma thought that this information was sufficient. Then Makoto discovered that he was right, but missing some details. Threat thought she had gotten some great materials, but lost her touch. Then we move to Kutish's house, and Bob Stepp read about Kutish's flaws, but Kutish didn't stay silent and also read about Bob Stepp's flaws, which made her angry. Then they started fighting together. Kutish started chasing one of the thieves and tried to stop him from escaping. Then, Bob Stepp came to him and urged him to leave this dangerous work to the police. However, Kutish refused and told her he would try to stop the thief until the police arrive. But while Kutish was busy with Bob Stepp, he got hit by the thief, causing him to be pushed aside, and he almost got hit by a car. Suddenly, a superhero appeared and saved him. After that, the superhero caught the thief. Then, Bob Stepp approached to check on Kutish, who was fine. The superhero then introduced himself and showed admiration for Kutish, but asked him not to get involved in such dangerous work and to leave it to the professionals. Kutish thanked the superhero for saving him and asked about himself, which made the superhero angry because he didn't know Kutish. In his anger, he threw the thief away. Then, he introduced himself as the #1 hero in America named Celebrity. He accidentally dropped his autograph on Kutish's clothes so his name wouldn't be attributed to it, which angered Kutish because the jacket was very expensive to him. Celebrity told him that his signature was worth much more than that jacket. However, Kutish believed that the owner decides the value of an item, which made Celebrity laugh a lot, and he began to bully Kutish, telling him that a man is only distinguished by his big muscles. He then caught the thief again and advised Kutish not to play the role of a hero again and left. Next, we switch to Kutish's house, where Kaldster and Bob Stepp were watching TV and catching up on the latest news about Celebrity. It was announced that he is America's #1 hero, traveling from coast to coast and protecting those on Earth and in the sky. Then he went to Japan, announcing he would start working in Tokyo. Bob Stepp told Kaldster that this man was the one who saved Kutish. They continued watching, and Kaldster was amazed by Celebrity's solo rescue of a ship. realizing he had many achievements but also facing a lot of problems. While they named him Captain Celebrity, he went through many lawsuits and scandals, stating he had come to Japan to work since he could no longer operate in his home country. Kutish felt bad for him, and Bob Stepp was surprised Kutish spoke with disdain about someone. However, Kutish disliked Celebrity and those similar to him. Bob Stepp thought people are free to be whoever they want. She then asked Kutish what he was doing, and he said he was cleaning stains from his jacket because someone had scratched it. Then we switched to the street, where a giant monster appeared again in one of the streets and started wandering between the buildings, causing people in the street to panic and flee. Hachisuka was in one of the stores and was impressed by the display this monster presented, thinking that the bigger the monster, the quicker superheroes show up. It was easy to figure out who this useless being was, which was surprisingly surprising. She then left and wished good luck to the monster. Bob Stepp then appeared, starting to warn the people while the monster began to destroy the buildings. Kutish directed the people to a safe place but saw a girl screaming because her brother was at home. Then Celebrity appeared to Kutish and asked about the situation. Kutish got excited that he was there, and told him he had come at the right time and rushed to save the child at home. However, Celebrity asked Kutish to wait a bit until the press was ready and his team was prepared. Kutish felt that this wasn't the right time for that, but Celebrity claimed the police hadn't issued a request yet, so he wasn't obligated to rush. Kutish, however, didn't care about his words and left. Celebrity then received a call from his assistants, who informed him that they also got news from the press and mentioned that there were some superpowered individuals they could team up with. They prioritized who to rescue first, based on his team's judgment. Celebrity got ready and then launched an attack on the monster. His assistant played music to hype him up as Celebrity rescued people. He then struck the monster, with his assistants cheering him on until he managed to defeat the monster. On the other side, Kutish was searching for the missing child and almost got injured due to debris falling from the buildings. Then Kutish heard a dog barking, which made him stop. He looked outside the house, thinking the one screaming was a child, but it was actually a dog, which surprised Kutish. However, he approached the dog and told himself that life is precious, whether a dog or a human, and picked it up to get out of that place. Meanwhile, Celebrity attacked the monster, defeating it, and almost let the monster fall on Kutish, but he managed to save Kutish and the dog, landing in front of the reporters. He signed Kutish's jacket again, and then posed for the cameras to gain more fame. Celebrity's team began distributing meals to the people, and Bob Stepp was amazed that Celebrity managed to save so many people by himself, Kutish being one of them. However, Bob Stepp was puzzled that Kutish wasn't hurt at all and succeeded in everything. The girl then called out to her dog and thanked Kutish, which made him happy. However, Celebrity approached Kutish and told him he doesn't deal with pets, stating it was solely his credit for saving the dog and it wasn't Celebrity's fault. He asked Kutish to stop running around underfoot while wearing that costume because if his jacket appeared on TV, it would make the whole scene look bad, as that part of his job is part of his image. He bid farewell to the people and left, but Kutish's dislike for Celebrity increased. Then we switched to the ruined building where the monster was, which was on the verge of collapsing and had many cracks. Kutish moved towards the building and entered. He found a samurai and a girl, but he had a problem carrying both of them. Then Celebrity's hand came back and told him that they would collaborate on this as well. Kutish lifted the samurai while Celebrity carried the girl. Kutish felt they should switch roles, but Celebrity prefers to carry women only, which frustrated Kutish because he didn't want to listen to his boring details. Then one of the large stones fell and almost hit Kutish, but Celebrity saved them and asked the reporters to take pictures of him, which made Kutish dislike him again. Then Bob Stepp approached Kutish and told them Celebrity had the next agenda item being the demolition of the dangerous building. The team cheered Celebrity on intensely until he attacked the building and destroyed it. As Kutish and Bob Stepp were watching this, Kutish was surprised by the cheerleaders appearing for him, but Bob Stepp thought that things were like this in America, and not half of the heroes in Japan were actors as well. She wondered why they enhanced the heroes' appearances and thought she could inspire this for her own show. When he finished and received a lot of encouragement, Kutish found it all very boring, shallow, and inappropriate to the point that he envied it greatly. Then Kutish heard a familiar voice, which was Makoto. She was one of the girls cheering for Celebrity. Kutish then felt hatred towards Makoto because she cheered for Celebrity. Bob Stepp confronted Kutish again about what he said about her. Makoto saw Kutish and Bob Stepp and tried to catch up with them to talk, but they ran away from her until Celebrity approached Makoto, calling her leader. However, he asked her to call him by his real name and praised her for being a good leader, while she tried to be humble. He prevented her from doing so, telling her she is a significant help to him and requested they talk more intimately about the agency's future, meaning he wanted to know her more and she wanted to know him more. Makoto agreed and showed her phone to book a restaurant for that, but he offered to reserve a restaurant on the upper floor with a view, which Makoto did not refuse. While Kutish and Bob Step watched them from a distance, it angered Kutish to see Celebrity touch Makoto's shoulder. Then Caldester approached them and exposed Celebrity as a womanizer, claiming he had returned to his old habits, mentioning that all his lawsuits were filed by women, the largest of which was a demand from his estranged wife for compensation. He hadn't learned his lesson even after being stripped of everything he owned. Caldester thought that his wife couldn't keep an eye on him, so he went back to his old ways. Then, the next day, Makoto was waiting for Celebrity and was being watched by Kutish and Bob Step. Bob Step wanted to rescue Makoto before she became Celebrity's girlfriend. Celebrity then appeared and asked Kutish why he was watching a girl from his agency, catching Makoto's attention as she greeted Kutish. This prompted Kutish to approach her and ask what she was doing there. Celebrity then came over, and Makoto introduced Celebrity to Kutish, saying that Kutish was her younger classmate in college. Celebrity was surprised Kutish was a college student, but Kutish told him he was just an ordinary student in college. Celebrity then said that Makoto was on a date with him, but Makoto denied it, claiming it was a work meeting. Celebrity then picked her up and flew with her, which made Kutish angry. We switched to Makoto, who informed Celebrity about an ongoing incident at the bank, but Celebrity didn't care about that because the important time was with her. Then Makoto received a phone call, and Celebrity asked her not to answer it, wanting to take her and fly with her in the sky. However, Makoto answered the phone, shocking Celebrity, as she told her friend she was having lunch with Celebrity and that her friend was Celebrity's wife. This made Celebrity feel very scared. She mentioned she met her last week online to ask for advice and asked her if Celebrity was fooling around and if he hadn't learned his lesson yet because it would benefit her in the lawsuit. She wanted to know what it meant to be taken to the sky. Then Celebrity quickly left to handle the robbery that had occurred. Then we moved to the bank where the robbery took place, and the thief asked for a car to escape. And outside, the police told people to back away because the thief had a firearm. Among the crowd were Kitch and Bob Step, and Bob Step felt frustrated because she was going shopping but encountered another problem. Kitch was surprised he had left his jacket at home, but Bob Step saw that the police were present and there wasn't anything Kitch could do. She asked him what difference the jacket would make. Then, Celebrity arrived at the scene and entered the bank, managed to catch the thief, and the girls tried to approach him for a hug, but he declined and quickly left. He came back when he found Kitch and asked him to come with him immediately, took him up high, and transported him to a place with Makoto. He took photos with him and sent them to his wife, then called her to ask for her opinion on the pictures. He told Kutish that going out with guys didn't fit his image, but Makoto thought that boosting support with the male demographic to shake off his scandalous image was a fresh start in Japan. Then Makoto came up with a new idea for Celeber and told him that he had the opportunity to rebrand himself, which surprised Celeber. Next, we moved to Kutish's house where the three were watching Celeber's new commercial, leading them to wonder about this. Bob Step asked what had happened to this guy and whether any of them understood the term Yankee, but Caldester explained that most foreign celebrities come to Japan and end up being seen as strange. Then Kutish received a call from his father, who told him that his mother was coming, which made Kutish very uncomfortable. His mother was already on the train. He hurriedly cleaned and tidied his room because his mom was very strict. However, Bob Step reminded him that he wasn't a child, although she didn't know that Kutish's mom had opposed his move to Tokyo. He began to mimic her voice when he told her he was going to Tokyo, and said that his mom warned him that bad people would trick him and get him into trouble. Bob Step thought his mom was right, but if she came here and saw all this mess, she would force him to return to the countryside and leave the university. He also told her that things were going well for him, and that he had a girlfriend too. But what would he do if his mom wanted to meet her? He couldn't stand lying, which made Bob Step feel embarrassed. However, Kutish was very excited. Then Bob Step told him she was leaving now and left. Kutish's mom arrived immediately after Bob Step left. She came in and started looking around the room, searching for good food. Kutish offered her tea, and his mom thought he was living quite well. She asked him to meet his girlfriend, which made Kutish very uncomfortable.